Hello, everybody. Excuse me. Just got done eating some spinach and artichoke dip, so forgive me. So, I am coming on today to talk to you guys about anxiety and depression and how it can be crippling. Um, I will tell you that I struggled so much with anxiety and over the years that it was so bad, it turned into panic attacks. And when I tell you that, I'm trying to find my live stream so I can hear myself to make sure it's working. So give me 1 second. Make sure I can't seem to figure out how to get there. Okay, so anyway, we're not going to worry about it. Lord willing, it's good. So anyway, so we're going to talk about anxiety. But if you've never been to this podcast, this is the Real Conversation, Real Motivation podcast, where we dive deep into real conversations about life and sharing powerful testimonies. I am your hostess of the mostest. I am Michelle Bradford, and I am here to share with you my story. And I'd like to share with you some practical motivation, with a dose of positivity, because everything that we go through, it can be traumatic, PTSD, all these things can carry over into our present and into our future. But what I'm doing is I am sharing my stories with you and how you can overcome a lot of these things in your life. So whether you're looking for healing from past trauma or finding resolutions to an issue, or just simply needing a boost of encouragement, you are in the right place. So before we get started, please, can you go over and subscribe to my new YouTube channel? I would really appreciate it, because I would like to reach more people to share with others about things that maybe they haven't told their family, or they need advice or tips or tricks, or they just want to hear my story. I want to share with you that. So please go over and click that subscribe button for Real Conversation, Real Motivation, so that you don't miss any of the podcasts every Sunday at 6 p.m. Also, if you want to go on Facebook, you can go on Facebook or Instagram. I will eventually be going back to doing sharing videos over there, but they're going to all be pre-recorded videos. But we are going live here. Actually, I'm live now, but it's on private, and I will be just sharing here at 6 o'clock. So I will schedule my live stream at 6 o'clock so that you guys can come in and just view the podcast. So anyway, excuse me. So I just want to kind of share with you my story about anxiety. Man, I never thought that I would ever overcome anxiety. I'm being honest. I thought, that this is something that I would live with for the rest of my life. And what's funny is I live with a lot of invisible illness and symptoms. I have several chronic illnesses. And I applied for disability probably in 2012, I believe it was, or early 2013. And I was denied. Literally, they told me to go back to the job that I did before. Um, and I applied based off of my illness, my invisible illnesses, and not off anxiety. So I found out later that you can get disability more for anxiety and depression that you can for illness, because my illnesses, the ones I have, are pretty rare. They're not rare, but they're rare enough that they're not in the Social Security disability for them. They have certain disabilities that you can apply for, and none of mine were there. So I say that to say that I know more people that have gotten disability with anxiety than for their actual disability, which is crazy. But you got to play the game. So anyway, I have to say that I haven't completely, all of the anxiety is not completely gone. But when I tell you that it's diminished to a small amount, and I will say that my anxiety most of the time comes out in my fingernails. I bite my nails. Nothing else. I don't have the breathing. I don't have the, feel like I'm having a heart attack. I don't feel any of that. anymore. I used to have panic attacks to the point of where I would end up getting picked up at work and by ambulance and going to the hospital. And I can tell you that many times when I had those panic attacks at work, it was because I was suing the government because they were not accommodating my disability. Obama was in office, and the thing was is that he wanted us to have good work and life balance. So being able to work at home, they refused to let me work at home. And then after a while, I went to the union and all kinds of stuff happened. So then they said, well, we'll let you do hybrid. Well, we were already hybrid. So basically, I was on 2 days a week at home. They let me do 3, but they refused to let me do 5 days. And so there was a whole battle. And every time I had to drive to work, it hurt. I drove 45 minutes to work every day. Driving in a car, it was struggle. I was sick a lot, especially living in Kansas City where the weather was really unpredictable. And so I literally just would vibrate. And I had that happen in a previous position that I was in because I worked in a clinic, and things would happen that were out of my control. And so a lot of times it's because you're out of control or things like that are happening in your life. And so you're struggling with, a lot of stuff. So also after my friend died, I struggle with depression really bad. I still have some. I feel kind of alone now because she was always in the house for 3.5 years. We lived together. Before that, I knew her for almost 4 years. So we knew each other for 7 years, 7.5 years when she died. So it was a struggle for me because I went from moving here by myself. I knew it was going to happen. I had the expectation. I loved being in Florida, exploring, but after a while, it got kind of lonely. And then, me and my friend, my sister, that's why I call her Donna, we became friends. And I loved her and we would go so many places together. And so when she died, I had a nervous breakdown. I struggled. I was sad. I didn't know what I was going to do. I lost most of my stuff because I was sick and I couldn't carry a couch by myself. I couldn't carry a lot of my bed and stuff by myself. And so I had to leave the place where I was at because of personal reasons, but I couldn't go back there. It was a struggle. Just the thought of being in that apartment after finding her deceased, I literally had anxiety, I had depression, I had sadness, I had pain. I was in so much pain because I had been in the hospital like before she went in the hospital, and just both of us had been in and out of hospital. So it just really, I struggled again with anxiety. But when I tell you that, I pushed forward because sometimes, the anxiety and the depression will take you back to a place that you experienced in the past, and you forget for a moment how you handled something in the past. And so let me just tell y'all that I struggled. I struggled big time, you know, but after I thought about it, after I overcame that previous job, because I will tell you there was how many years? 2, 4, 5, 6. Oh, that was 7 years. 7, 9. So it had been about 10 years ago when I worked for the government. And so I slowly started learning how to take my life back. I learned how to center myself. I learned how to manifest. I learned how to meditate and to pray. I learned how to use oils and crystals to take bad energy away and to give me good energy. And when I tell you, it really worked for me, but I hadn't been practicing the way I had been in the past. And so I got back to feeling the anxiety and the depression and the sadness and the emotion. And, it was grief, yes. But as I sit here and I tell you, it has been a struggle, but I am overcoming my sadness and grief and depression of her being deceased. To go from not being alone to back being alone was probably the worst thing because she was my emergency contact. We always went everywhere together. We did day trips, we took cruises, Um, we would go to the casino. We just did a lot of stuff together. I love to cook for people, so I would cook for her, even though she didn't really like a lot of food that I made, but I would make stuff that she liked. So it's a struggle. And so let's talk about, how some of the ways that I overcame, how I overcame some of the anxiety, because that's important. You can talk about anxiety all day. And I know a lot of people that don't know that there are ways to overcome, so um, sometimes we'll use different techniques. We'll try whatever. Like somebody will say, take, breathe, and you don't really know how to, but you have the desire to. Or, they say, oh, listen to music or go take a walk or something to that effect. And sometimes when it gets so bad, the panic attacks are so rough that you are not able to really like solve it. You know what I mean? So and this is my opinion, I feel like when you start having anxiety, that's when you have to start working on it. You can't let it manifest and grow into something more, because after a while it gets out of control and you can't do anything about it. So the best way, I think, is, number one for me is manifestation. Manifesting positivity, love and light all the time, putting yourself on a road to success, um, you know, trying to remove the emotion out of your decision making and out of the way that how you feel people, you know, and kind of redirecting our attention and our behaviors so that we have more fulfilling, be more fulfilled and have more productivity. So sometimes, procrastination will keep you there, emotion most definitely will keep you there. Knowing that you can't control something, but you have no control over it, and it's things are happening that will cause you to have anxiety, cause you to be, sadness, things like that. So I'm telling you, it's a crazy type of situation, and all I can say is, you know, uh, you got to put in the work to get out the results. And I can tell you that it's a struggle. It's not easy, man. It's not easy. So let's talk about the causes of anxiety. Let's talk about the clinical cause. So I am on mailclinic.com. So if you want to know my reference, mailclinic.com. And so the overall says experiencing occasional anxiety is a normal part of life. So just remember that anxiety is a part of life. But what I tell you, that I tell myself, is that it's not my anxiety. It's not my depression. I do not want to have a claim check on anxiety and depression, because it is a part of my life that is toxic and negative to me, and it's crippling, and I don't want to claim it like a claim check when I go, like when you go to the airport and claim your bag. So yes, anxiety is part of life. We all have it, but you can manifest an exit plan. So like for me, if I get anxiety, if I start feeling it, I'll immediately go, okay, it's okay. I'll either start praying, or I'll talk myself down off the ledge and say, it's okay, Michelle, this is not real. You need to let it go. Different things like that. And knowing that this disorder is only temporary. So some people are so bad and they have chemical reaction. And a lot of times it's environmental. We talk about, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm only telling you my experience. So I'm just telling you that chemically, when I was putting stuff on my skin, stuff in my body, stuff that I was breathing, and the air, all of these toxic chemicals, parasites, metals that we're getting every day, that we're putting in dyes, different artificial dyes, things like that you're putting in your body. If you have the sensitivity that I do, I have massive sensitivity, and I don't know how many other people have this, but people think that allergies are just itching. Well, I have the itching, but I also have the acid reflux. I also have it changes my mindset. If I don't do my supplements, if I don't eat right, it will change my thought process. So there are a lot of factors in what's causing you to have a chemical imbalance. Another thing is that when my vitamin D is low, and the doctor, the psychiatrist told me this years ago. When my anxiety was low, he told me, he said, it's your vitamin D level. And when your vitamin D is low, your body is used, women's body uses vitamin D like a hormone. And when it's low or imbalanced, it causes you to have anxiety, it can cause you to have depression, have all of these symptoms that are related to a mental illness, but you're not mentally ill. It's actually the vitamin D. So we have to look at, what are we putting in our body? What are we, what are we putting in? Are we putting in good stuff? Are we putting in bad stuff? I'm not going to lie to y'all and say that I always eat well. But what I do have intentions about is, I don't buy seasoning from the grocery store too often, because most of the seasoning has MSG and other chemicals, preservatives. And I make my own with vegetable scraps or vegetables that I have. Like I make my own paprika. I make my own vegetable broth, the powder. I make my own ginger. I have my own garlic. And so the thing of it is that when you get to a point where you're just so exposed to so many chemicals, you don't even realize how much you're putting on your body, in your body, and around your body. Well, I'm so sensitive to medication. I'm sensitive to foods. I don't eat meat because I'm allergic to chicken, fish, turkey, pork. I'm allergic. I don't eat shrimp if it's out at a restaurant, because they put food enhancers, seasonings like MSG on the food to make it taste good, to get you come back. So it got to be good. So I'm allergic to that. And every time I've gone out and eaten shrimp at any restaurant in the last probably 4 or 5 years, I've had an allergic reaction. So I don't eat shrimp out. Now I will buy shrimp at home, but I will not purchase any shrimp that is from another country, because you don't know what they're putting on that shrimp to make it to be preserved in order to get shipped to the United States. So I haven't had shrimp in a long time. I only eat fish probably a couple of times a month, if that. I do eat eggs. I do eat cheese, and I eat some milk. I make my own yogurt. And so making my own yogurt is natural. So I'm not eating yogurt that's from the store. I make my own. And so I try my best to make my own hair oil. I do buy shampoo sometimes, but I am minimal in the kind of shampoo that I buy. But guess what? I started making my own soap. So I use Dr. Bronner's liquid for my hair, body, and even to do laundry with. I make my own laundry soap. And I can tell y'all, just from all of these things, I know it's a lot of work. A lot of people don't want to put in the work, but y'all want the results. You have to put in the work to get what you need, because sometimes anxiety is environmental. I have mast cell activation, which is environmental, and also allergies. So, excuse me, I'm allergic to trees. I'm allergic to I'm allergic to a lot of stuff, and it affects me in my stomach. Like me burping and all of that right now is because I ate something, and my stomach is trying to process it, and I have high histamines in my body, so I'm constantly itching all the time, acid reflux, all of that, because many of the foods that I eat, even though they are okay, they're healthy, they cause high histamines. So I have a cause of high histamines that I just got done eating something, and it can cause high histamines because my stomach is so sensitive. And so anyway, me changing a lot of the stuff that I do has helped me tremendously with anxiety, with depression, not eating sugar, because I eat sugar, but not like I was, because it causes you to crave it, but it affects your body in a negative way. So, so let's talk about the anxiety. What does the Mayo Clinic say about anxiety? So experiencing occasional anxiety is a normal part of life. However, people with anxiety disorder frequently have intense, excessive, and worry and fear about everyday situations. So I'll tell you that I always say that worry and fear are a imaginary emotion that will keep you stuck in a situation. And so, what can we do to get rid of that? Because we're worry and fear are not weird; they're not real. We manifest that inside of us. Either we're worrying about something because we don't have control over it, a job, your children, your life, and so we have to learn how to, manifest away from the worry and fear. So often anxiety disorder involves repeated episodes of sudden feeling of intense anxiety and fear or terror that peaks within seconds, like a panic attack. I used to have them all the time, and it would cause my blood pressure. I had intracranial hypertension, and it would cause my blood pressure to just skyrocket. And so for me, it was very detrimental because I felt like I was going to die. A lot of people feel like they're having a heart attack, but it's anxiety. So a lot of people avoid places and situations to prevent the feeling. Well, I'm going to tell you that because of my brain, I have sensory overload. And with sensory overload, everything is sensitive. Taste, smell, hearing, everything is sensitive. And so, yes, I do avoid crowds, especially indoors, because the acoustics inside of a place, if it's really loud, it causes me to have anxiety. So I do avoid play, but I do go outside. Now I will go outside and it can be loud and everything, and that's okay. But there are some places like going to clubs where people are smoking cigars. I don't like cigar bars because of the cigar smell, and it affects my sensories. I don't like beer because it affects my sensories. I don't like that. But going into a bar, I might be able to handle it. Like if there's a live band, I might be able to handle it for a little bit. But if it's cold in there, that's another sensory. If it's too hot in there, that's another sensory. So those kind of places will give me anxiety. So I do avoid them. So let's get back to the article. You may avoid places and situations to prevent the feeling. Symptoms may start during childhood or teenage years and continue to adulthood. Yes, I would completely agree with that. So general anxiety, that is social, they have social phobia or social anxiety, which is, I don't think, I love people. Like I just went to a picnic yesterday. It was so much fun. There was music. It was outdoors. I had a great time. But if that was inside of somewhere, I would struggle because of the sensory overload. And that's something that I can't help because I had brain surgery. I had a brain issue it was a pediatric illness that I've had my whole life. And it affects me. It affects everything, cold, hot, sensories, all kinds of stuff. Sometimes depth perception. I bought a freaking walking pad I can't even use because when I walk on it, I feel like I'm going to fall. I don't feel sturdy. So it feels like I'm on a bicycle and I can't ride a bike. So I'm going to sell it because I can't use it. I can't send it back now to Amazon. So I'm going to sell it. So anyway, let's talk about some symptoms because, sometimes we don't realize all of the different symptoms. We have like the basic symptoms, but feeling nervous or restless or tense, having a sense of impending danger, panic, or doom, having increased heart rate, breathing rapidly, like hyperventilating. So, they talk about, I don't remember if they still do this, but they tell you to breathe in a brown bag. I don't even know they have brown bags anymore. They may still have brown bags. I don't know. They used to have these small lunch bags that they would tell you to breathe into. You sweat, you tremble, you feel weak or tired, you're trouble concentrating or thinking about anything other than the present worry. You're having trouble sleeping, or you have GI problems, having difficulty controlling worry, and having an urge to avoid things that trigger anxiety. So there's many kinds of anxieties that are out there, and this is a really crazy list of anxiety that some of them I didn't know, some I did know, but I'm going to just kind of go through a list of them. Now, I'm not going to really go into depth on the details of what they are, but I'm just going to mention to you that there are multiple kinds. And so if you are interested in knowing more about those, please rewind this and maybe go and do a Google search. But agoraphobia is the first one. If you don't know what agoraphobia is, it's where you avoid places and situations that may cause you panic and may make you feel trapped, helpless, and embarrassed. I will say that I'm agoraphobic to a degree. And the only reason why I say that is because I don't like doing inside places. Now, I'll go to restaurants And I have to really, like, if somebody asks me to go somewhere, I have to really get myself prepared to go inside of a place. I can't just, I mean, at the last minute, you know. Now I've been in several places, especially restaurants, places like that, but clubs, I really don't like to go into all that much. Um, and the only way I would do it is if I was impaired. Now I don't like going anywhere impaired, like drinking or smoking a little doobie or something. It's one of those things where I avoid those type of things because I don't want to make that part of my daily process of going places. So most of the places I go to is the beach. I go to outdoor activities, festivals, things like that for the most part because I can handle that. So there's also anxiety due to medical conditions, which I can say I probably had that too because I had so many things that were not diagnosed. And even now, I'm starting to get more diagnoses, but I don't have a lot of doctors that can help me. Medication makes me sick. It makes me have, I had anaphylaxis off of a couple of medications. So I can't take anything. And so it gave me anxiety when I thought I was going to die because I couldn't find a blood pressure medication that could help me because I kept having hives. Well, I finally have a patch that I'm using that has been a life-saving, man, life-saving. I mean, it gave me my life back. So literally in September, well, before Donna died, I went in the hospital and they gave me this patch. Well, they gave me a patch and it wasn't the right strength. It was a lower strength. But me and my primary slowly but start trying different stuff. And we found that raising the prescription up, I'm doing great. My blood pressures are great. They've never been this good. And I've also lost weight. So I had lost weight in 2020 and I was still having issues with my blood pressure. But I will tell you, between the losing weight and the patch, I'm doing great. And I'm thankful and grateful to God that, I'm able to overcome that. So that's something that I had to pursue to overcome the medical part. So then there's general anxiety. There's panic disorder, which I had that in the past. I've not had that in a long time. Then they have selective mutism. I don't know what that is. Let's see what that is. It is consistent failure of children to speak in certain situations, such as school. I had that when I was a kid. Mutism. Yeah. So they speak in other situations, even when they can speak in other situations, such as home, close family members. This could interfere with school, work, and social function. They always call that shyness. I don't know. Okay, so then separation anxiety. So a lot of kids have that separation anxiety. Pets have that as well. And even adults can have separation anxiety. If you've been around somebody like my friend who died, I guess I could say I had separation anxiety because she passed away. Then they have social anxiety. We have specific phobias, like again, regarding specific objects or situations that you avoid. Substance-induced anxiety. I will tell you, I have had substance abuse anxiety from taking medication, taking something because I'm so sensitive. Um, I can't take Valium. I can't take Percocet or Tramadol. I can't take any of that stuff. It's too strong and it causes me to have like a fluttering of the heart, and I can't. It's really really bad. So I don't take pain medicine too often, and if I do, it's a dual, which is Tylenol and ibuprofen together. But very rarely do I even take that. And so you know, if you have anxiety and depression, or if you have any other mental illness at all, I recommend you to go see a psychiatrist because it would be very helpful that you get a panel done. First of all, get a lab panel done because vitamin B, if you're lacking vitamin B, so many different minerals and vitamins that we use. Women, our body uses them as hormone, and so. But I recommend you to get a lab panel of your levels to see how good or bad they are, because if they're non-existent, that could be why you're having these issues. So they are saying there can be medical causes for anxiety, like depression, diabetes, hyperthyroidism, respiratory diseases like COPD, um, Alcoholism can cause anxiety if you're using medication. Pain or irritable bowel syndrome can cause as well. So, you know, other ways that can increase the development of anxiety is trauma. Now, I had a traumatic childhood. I will tell you that I am going to be writing a book. And in my book, I'm going to be sharing that. I'm looking for an app where I can do speak text because my hands hurt all the time and they're always stiff. I feel like I'm getting arthritis. And so I'm trying to get a speak text where I can speak it into an app. So that's what I'm looking for. I did already create I created a book. Um, I guess the front of the book, the title of the book. I did create that and I'm grateful. It kind of came out of a situation. So I'm going to be sharing about trauma and the things I've gone through in my life. And the name of the book is I Turned My Pain into Purpose. There's so much child trauma, and I'm just going to start from the beginning. Um, Many of it started when I was a very, very, very young child, and be it my mom being in an abusive relationship with this man, and all of the different things that happened in my life. I'm not going to hold nothing back. So I'm telling y'all, this is going to be a great book once I get started. I have had several people tell me I should write a book, and so I'm ready to get started as soon as I find an app. Okay, so stress also can stress due to illness, stress buildup, your personality where you might be prone to anxiety. There's some people who have autism. They may have other disorders that can cause them to, be more prone to anxiety. So let's talk about ways that we can really like help to reduce anxiety, because we know a lot of the things that causes anxiety, right? We know that there can be illness and different things like that, substance abuse, it could be environmental, all these things, but how can we reduce them? And so one way to reduce anxiety is set your sights. So anxiety and depression often fills our mind and with potential problems and feared failures, as though we're victims of a situation or a circumstance. So you have to start turning the table. I had to learn that. We're so conditioned to be negative rather than positive. I feel like things in lifestyle right now, time is bringing about a change for me. But as I was growing up, I mirrored the people that I was around. And I can tell you, I have an auntie that's the most negative person and nasty and abrasive. She is not a good person, and I avoid her like the plague. I have to see her sometimes, and I'm cordial, but I don't interact with her. I don't even have her phone number, and I've never had her number all these years. I can tell you, between my mom, we've had some toxic situations in the past. I mean, we've overcome a lot of that stuff and become different people. But when I tell you that in my past, it was not good, um, there was a lot of that. So you have to really turn the table. So, sometimes the nurturing that you receive, even though it's not, they just live in their life and that's who they are. But these boomers, a lot of boomers are negative. I'm just gonna be honest. And us as Gen Xers, we come behind and we're just as toxic, but we have decided that we're not going to be that way anymore, and we're moving past that. So even though I'm 55 years old, I wish I would have learned how to do these things sooner, but I've been sick my whole life. So between the toxicity of my family and my illness and, I'm not feeling supported and heard, it just kind of bombarded me in all these different ways for years, having anxiety with my jobs. I didn't feel like I was supported in my jobs. And so we have to decide the first thing in the morning, what kind of day you're going to have. So when you get up in the morning, if you start talking about how you're on the wrong side of the bed, you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, or this happened, that happened. Let me tell y'all something. Sometimes stuff happens. One day I fell out the bathtub while I was showering. So I really tried really hard to take a bath rather than a shower. But I took a shower one day, and let me tell you, fell out the bathtub. It was scary. I broke the whole bar, everything fell out the tub. And then I laid there and I started laughing to myself because I am so clumsy. I felt kind of off with my brain disorder. Sometimes I feel that way when I'm doing stuff. If I move too fast, it makes my eyes, I cross my eyes, and that's what happens. So um, I started laughing though. So it's really how you accept your day. So what are your thoughts? What are you cultivating? What are you manifesting? How will you find joy? Who will you love? What is the quality of your presence will you bring to any challenges that you meet? Because you're going to meet challenges all the time. So you can either go crazy and have anxiety and depression and just, oh my gosh, or you can meet it head on, and you can choose to be the author of your day. You can write your day, you can write your story. Decide what is worthy of your energy and attention. So it's all about that universal life force energy and how you're going to use it. So you want to make sure that your energy level, your megahertz, are high, because if your megahertz are high, you're more apt to not have anxiety, depression, and you're not sick. When your megahertz are low, you tend to have a lot more anxiety and depression, and you are inward and you have more fear and worry and all of that. So raising your vibration, so doing something that makes you happy and joyful, you know, being intentional about your thoughts, you know. So worry versus problem solving. So worrying is can be repetitious and is unproductive. It is a wasted emotion. We put too, you know, we, and I can, and I shouldn't even say we, me, I've put so much into worry about every little thing growing up all the time. But if it can only offer a feeling if you can work through the problem. So, let me repeat myself. Worrying is repetitive and is unproductive, but it can often feel like you're working through problems. I don't think so. So, you know, I think that a real problem solver is in contrast. So when you're worrying, try to figure out what the actual problem is. You know, instead of, oh my God, I don't know. I, figure out, write it down, make a video about it, whatever you need to do to get it out of you, but try to focus on a way to solve the problem. You know, so when you worry, you know, you got to spin the wheel of positivity. And then you have to aim to direct your mental energy towards a productive problem solving. So instead of just falling into the anxiety, because it can take it to the next level. You have the anxiety, then it goes to the next level, then it goes to the next level. And sometimes you can't breathe. Sometimes then you start having panic attack, and it's just a really crazy emotion. And so let's redirect ourselves when we start feeling that emotion coming through. So another thing is I had to find strength within myself. I had to redirect myself and learn a lot of things. And I will tell you, one of the things that gave me anxiety is not understanding negative and manipulation. Because for a long time, people would say stuff to me and do stuff. And I knew it wasn't right, but I couldn't put my finger on what exactly it was. So for me, it's like, well, am I just nitpicking? Is this a problem? Is this an issue? Whatever, whatever. And I'm like, it gave me anxiety because I didn't know what to do. So when you find yourself hoping for an easy, problem-free day, and you shift your focus to how you respond, you know, so that's how you find your strength. So you know what? I'm going to have a problem-free day. I'm going to shift myself on how I respond and say, may I find strength to meet every challenge. Thank you, God. May I find courage to face whatever comes my way. Thank you, Lord. May I find grace in all I do. Because problems are inevitable. You're going to have them, but it's how you handle them is what's going to keep you from having the panic attacks and the anxiety. So, you know, so things are out of your control. So if they're out of your control, you just kind of have to go with the flow and not allow yourself to like freak out over it, you know? So another thing that you can do is define your best life. So when you're tempted to avoid something today because of anxiety, ask yourself what kind of life you want to have. One defined by fear or avoidance, or where you can play it safe, even when it means missing out on things that you care about. Or if life is defining fear, what matters to you. So plan to take one action today that your future self will be thankful for. I think that's a really great advice because, we'll avoid stuff just so that we don't have to deal with it. But sometimes it's unavoidable. And so you got to ask yourself, do I want to stay here in the house in my PJs, sitting around by myself? I'm talking to myself right now. Or do I want to get out and do something? Like yesterday, man, I didn't want to go to a picnic at work because it was going to be hot. I love the people that I work with, but I tried to find all kinds of reasons of not going. But I got so joyful. I started cooking. I made some spinach artichoke dip. I made some banana pudding. I made some cookies. And I took that. And when I tell you, I had a wonderful time, even though it was hot and I was sweaty, I had a wonderful time. So sometimes we got to do stuff outside of, our norm just so that so that we're not avoiding things because of anxiety. So taking the wheel, that's a huge one. So emotions are noisy passengers, directing you to avoid anything that makes you have anxiety or seem overwhelming. But be careful. Don't go there. Watch out. Oh no, not today's. But consider today whether you want to avoid difficult feelings to be on top of the priority in your life, to be on top of priorities in your life. If there's anything more important to you than being emotionally comfort, if so, steer your life in that direction and let yourself come along for the ride. So, the thing of it is that sometimes we do have to step outside our comfort zone. We have to be uncomfortable to be comfortable. So being comfortable will keep us stuck in our situation and, to avoid anxiety. But sometimes if we step outside the comfort zone, you know, and we're uncomfortable, it sounds like, oh, anxiety, all of that. But it's like, oh, I don't want to do it. But once you just start, put one foot in front of the other, you can do it. Another thing is self care, so, you know, self love, and self fear, they're on different parts of the spectrum. One grows and the other one shrinks. So the fear shrinks you, but the love grows you. So we're not talking about loving people. We're talking about loving ourselves. So love and fear, self love and self fear. So we got to go, how can I show love to myself? And then you start looking for opportunities to show love to yourself. How can I show love to myself? And focus on those different acts of love that you have so that you can let it go. I created a hashtag, unconditional love, not hate. And that could mean anything. Unconditional love, not hate. There are some people that don't love themselves, but they hate themselves. It's easier to hate themselves, to speak against themselves, to talk bad to themselves, to have low self-esteem and low energy, that feel like they're ugly and that they're a nobody. And those are easy things. But changing that dynamic so that you start loving yourself more and being and growing in your self-love. Another thing is changing the conversation. So anxiety and depression often make themselves the center of our attention, leading us to ask questions like, why do I feel so depressed? How can I stop feeling anxiety? When you're struggling emotionally today and asking these questions, what task is needing my attention right now? Then redirect your energy towards doing what's needed to be done and allow your feeling to exist in the background. So let me just tell y'all, I was telling my coworker that I've been training. I love her to death. She's awesome. And I was telling her, there's some anxiety because she's taking on something new. And I told her, I said, don't look at it as a whole. Break it down into 30 parts if you have to, 40 parts, and you only handle each part individually. You don't look ahead. You stay in the present, in the now, and don't look in the future. So if you have 30 parts, you look at one first. You solve that one, then you go to two, and then you just keep going. But don't look ahead, because looking ahead will cause you anxiety because you have no control over how long it's going to take you to get to the 30, but just focusing on that one. And that has helped me tremendously not to procrastinate, because sometimes if I look at the whole job and I'm like, oh my God, this is too much, I immediately get anxiety. But when I start breaking it down, saying, okay, I'm taking one step at a time, one foot in front of the other. That's what that means. Just take one foot in front of the other, period. And then other is facing your fears. That's pretty simple. Being uncomfortable to be comfortable. Sometimes you have to do that. facing your fears, having the courage to say, you know what, I'm going to move through this fear and I'm not going to avoid it today. I'm going to do what I need to do, no matter how big or small it is. Because sometimes we will manifest something so much that we'll think it's so huge and we'll avoid it. But then when we actually do it, it was nothing. Why was I afraid of that? Why did I do that? Wow. Procrastination is another one. Another thing that I do is being outdoors. I sit outside on my patio, my balcony. It's not a patio, it's a balcony. I sit on my balcony probably every single day, several hours a day, because being in nature lowers your anxiety and boosts your mood. I love to watch this. The sun sets right in front of my balcony. I can see it. I see the ducks. I see the water. I feel the wind blowing. I have my little plants out, my little garden, little small garden outside on the patio, and it makes me feel good. So I cleaned up my little patio today, made it all clean and swept it and all that. And so, you know, go out to dinner and sit outside on the patio at dinner. Go watch the sky, look at the lights, the plants, the birds, like I do. I don't know if I told y'all, but I have these doves that keep trying to, they had laid a, they laid a nest on my patio last year, and it gave me anxiety for a while, but then I enjoyed watching them at the same time. But now they're trying to come back and I'm not letting them come back. So I took down the curtains that they actually put their nest on. The curtains were only up there maybe a couple of weeks and they just destroyed my whole piece. I was using that as a private little area, but because I don't have screen, which now I wish I did, but I don't. I enjoy not having screen, but I really now wish I had screen because of the birds. They keep trying to put a nest and lay eggs up there again because they are a creature of habit. So I sit outside though. I love seeing the birds. I love to hear them cuckoo, coo, coo. I love to hear that. But I feel like my spirit connects to the natural world and I focus on that experience rather than, other stuff. So it makes me feel better. I literally, as soon as I get off work during the week, the first thing I do is grab some water and I go outside and sit on the patio. And some days it's hot as heck out there, but I have a fan that cools me off and I sit outside. I sit out every day, no matter how hot it is outside. I still sit outside because with no shoes on, I put my hands in the dirt. Like today, I planted some seeds. I planted some peppers that they've been growing, but I re-put them in a different pot. And so I'm just grateful to be able to do that, to have it outside. Another thing that I do, and I found myself not doing last year, the whole year that Donna died, I just kind of stayed to myself, stayed inward. I didn't do anything. Like I stayed inward, but practicing kindness. So I literally got discouraged because I can tell you my neighbors are not the friendliest. And I've lived in other places where my neighbors were friendly and we became friends and we hung out. But here where I live at now, none of them are friendly. I very rarely, my neighbor downstairs, she's friendly, but she's 94. I don't bother her. I see her probably once every few months or something, but nobody else is friendly. And I kind of stopped walking on our pathway outside because I would walk and people would turn to go the opposite direction to avoid me. That was just so mind-boggling to me. So anyway, I do my workouts in the house and I sit on my patio. So yeah, I could say I have avoided my neighbors or whatever. And I don't use our pool very much and I don't use our gym. I work out in the house because I work from home. And a lot of times I don't feel up to going down the stairs because my back hurts or my leg hurts or I have numbness. So I'm just telling you all that practicing kindness can really be effective. It can preoccupy you, doing something for acquaintance or call somebody to see how they're doing. Random acts of kindness, as I do. I didn't do it for my birthday this year, but I do random acts of kindness. And when I tell you that it makes me feel so much better, it makes me feel so much better about my life. So I just want you to know that motivation is important. Intention is important. So me doing this podcast, real conversations, is talking about these things that can be negative. They can be debilitating. They can be horrible to us. They can alter our life. They can alter our circumstances. They can make us feel some kind of way. But real conversations about this, and I'm sharing the motivation and the ways that you can resolve these issues, the ways that you can, do better in your life. And so I just want to, this is me giving back to you the things that I've overcome in my life and what I've done to make myself feel better. So inspiring you inspires me. And so empowering yourself to see, to see yourself in a better life, and then testing your difficult emotions, because like I said before, emotions will make you feel a certain kind of way, but once you push through it, you go, I didn't realize, why did I do that? Why did I let that do that to me? So people can see themselves, better, and they can see their perception is not as much as they thought it was going to be. So I'm telling you, um, it's important to really work on yourself. You got to have the intention. You got to make a way. Doing a video, writing it down. I actually have Keep on my phone. It's called Google Keep. And Google Keep is amazing. And let me just share with you. This is my Google Keep. I have tons and tons and tons of notes of different things going on in my life. I've deleted some stuff recently. I put my grocery list in here. I write down my, different things that I need. But Google Keep is something that I use every single day. So I don't write it down, but I speak it into my phone because my hands hurt. So if you are interested in knowing more about different things and techniques that I use, please ask me in the comments. But if you made it to the end of this live stream, I want you to know that you are loved, you are appreciated, and there's nothing you can do about it. God loves you. I love you. So continue to keep staying focused. And I hope that something I said resonates with you and that it will help you along the way, because let me tell you, life can be difficult and we don't have tools sometimes to help us navigate through parenthood and different things like that. But if we focus on our self-care and self-love and self-respect, it emulates outward, and other people can see it, and people can see the differences in who you are as a person. So I recommend you to work on that, to stay focused and don't give up, don't give in. And I'm sending prayers your way. So God bless you today. And I hope that you come back next Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll do this all over again. Take care of yourself. God bless you. And till next Sunday, I'll see you then.